SheerLee here with siriustalesmoon. This is Mercury hour, and we're talking about Jupiter night. Moon is in 10 degrees Scorpio, and the Mars is in Capricorn. Mercury 5 degrees Sag, and I have a little bit of a notice awareness. I want to talk about my grandfather and how he escaped the ghetto, because it's Mercury next to Ketu in my 10th house, and my grandfather, he looked closer to the Irish typecast. So his facial physiognomy was resembling something that crosses borders. And he could get in and out of the ghetto because of his appearance and bring food. Now, the only reason that was a possibility is because the ghetto wasn't resembling what we call a ghetto. And it was both marketed as, and was, a type of a 15-minute city. That was made to be profitable. Okay, profitable city is a working camp. There's no model for city to be anything other than a non-for-profit organization, if it is one. Because if there is profit, it means that the profit is off of human trafficking or human harvesting, and to get people to have addictions. That way, people can sell them that the addiction is because of their bad choices, not their lack of access to invasive plants. Connection, that love is actually loving. This is why if society is rapey, it will live in a ghetto. Okay? A ghetto makes of a city what was in the bedroom of the people of the city. So does a jail and a hospital and a safety house. Okay, 10 to political assassination prevention. Without extortion codes, it would be very difficult to do political assassination. But also quite unnecessary. Okay? If there is a zero rape society, in fact, there's a story about Hanukkah. I remember there was a psychologist, woman psychologist, and she wanted to connect me to the tradition. I said, okay, I don't understand why. Doesn't seem too ethical. And she told me a story about Hanukkah, that there was some lady that had made cheesecake for the king. And the reason was because the king required to sleep with every woman, kind of like an Epstein, before before she marries her husband. And she went with that cake. That cake was poisoned, and she killed the king. I say, why couldn't she kill the husband if they were raping? Because that story is very naive. We know in practice that extortion cults work differently. In reality, that king would also be raped as a child, had to rape as a child. And the organization that would traffic the women would be Jewish, as it is, as it was with the Nazis, as it is today in Israel. There would not be 7th of October without human traffickers within Israel that cooperated. Who are these people? Psychologists, psychiatrists, army people, security people, intelligence people, academia, 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 academia. Why academia? Why is academia so important? All the policies, your health policy, your financial policy, your jurisdiction policy, your politicians, your agrarian policy, your ecosystem policy. Zero rape is more ecosystemic than zero emission. In fact, you don't need zero emission when there is zero rape society. All of these people are trained somewhere. So that they can be trusted, they need to comply with trafficking codes. The few that didn't, like myself, as you can see, I'm not broadcasting as a researcher. I'm broadcasting as a person researching academia. I'm not broadcasting as an academic researcher in academia today, because that would mean shit ton of raped children, buried alive. Now, structures like trees are perishable, and when such things happen among these structures, eventually they bomb the hospital. And everybody, how can you do that? Well, they weren't going, how can you do that? When the people were raped there, under anesthesia, they were going, this is satanic panic. They are imagining, they want attention. They try to get, they climb up the ladder through the pants. Okay, fantastic. Boom. The reason that my grandfather was able to go out of the ghetto to get food and back was because the ghetto was designed at the city, and he could go because he looked Irish. So that means that Jews were not completely separated from Irish people even when they were transported, which means that people were transported to 15-minute cities. And those that had Irish physiognomy had more rights than Jews, as was for 300 years beforehand. Okay, there was, I don't remember which rabbi or philosopher, it was a Jewish philosopher, that he went, and the Jews used to go through the cows to the cattle. And then he was supposed to meet a minister, and the minister said, no, you can come through the usual entrance. He said, well, as long as Jews enter through the cattle, I'm a Jew. That's how stupid things were at that time. If the claim was that he was a pedophile that raped children, why why let him pass through to begin with? I think in Australia there are cities for people, pedophiles. But if not, then what's what's the issue? Structurally, as long as people don't have zero rape society, and the Talmud is not exactly a zero rape society, and this is the time where people are looking at that. In Israel, for example, for this holiday, Hanukkah, the big discussion about the rituals that are done. That they think it brings the Geulah, the salvation, and they're doing ritual of use to bring the salvation. So this Saturn in Pisces doesn't play. And when, I think it was when Saturn last was in Pisces, that would be the 90s, which is when people call it satanic panic. Just think about it. If people wouldn't call it satanic panic in the 90s, we wouldn't have 9/11, war in Iraq, Second Lebanese War, the Gulf War, war in Ukraine, the civil war in Congo, the civil war in Sudan, ICE, in general, ICE, the confiscation of public housing. Everybody, oh, it's so terrible that they want to take the public housing. What about the people that never got approval for the public housing? They were expected to walk among society being civil. The people that weren't ever believed for the MK often, which would be rape, but in the astral. So nobody sees a thing. And they were expected to walk amongst their peers civil, where everybody thinks that that's bogus, that they are psychotic, that they're hallucinating, while funding the very MK often through classified projects that does that. What about the people that were harassed and abused and trafficked by the academic institution? Were they expected to walk amongst their peers in conferences, civil? The people to whom it happened in a hospital. I had a Bulgarian friend. I'm bashing Israel, but not bashing Israel. It's a global thing. It happens in every country. And well, we had Intifada. She was going to a pub. Somebody put something in her drink. It wasn't even alcoholic drink. Not alcoholic drink. They put something in her cola or something like that. She was a bit sleepy. Somebody helped. And she went to the police. The policeman, as he interrogates her, tried to hit on her. Forget the fact that she had a boyfriend. He tried to hit on her. When she reports basically an attempt to have that was Bulgaria of the 90s. Before the euro. And then she had a niece was younger, even 15. They had to have to help her or something like that, because she went to party and then suddenly she comes, yes, two men were trying to be with her, adult men. They say, oh, what kind of people like that? You know, people, both parents, academics. Even after the euro, it used to pay, I think, something like 300 euro to be academic researcher. I don't know what they did in academia. Okay. It has something to do with, I think, semiotics. In a country where that happens, you expect there to not be an invasion? In Israel, the second the Intifada was stopped, same things happening all over the place. You want to tell me that in Palestine not? What's Mama Taliban's doing in Gaza? It's the same as the Jews. The Palestinians traffic their own to create genocide, thinking they'll have a mention in Gaza. So the ghetto, it was just a city, and there lived Jews there, and there lived people that had Irish physiognomy, and the guard would not let them out. Now imagine if my grandfather spoke once about the Holocaust. Imagine if my grandfather would share his testimony, would be stoned to death in Israel. Because that's not the narrative that's... Because to cross through the guard, because he looks Irish, back and forth, and to bring food is almost every day. And then there was a rebellion in the ghetto. People were running away. People were shooting at the people that were running away. And my grandfather and his brother managed. One ran through Germany, my grandfather through Italy. The one that went through Germany got shilomim, compensations. My grandfather got nothing. Some small pennies from Sarni. So Sarni had more dignity than entire government. That's the truth. That's my lineage. So the reason that there was a rebellion and the gate opened means that those cities were enclosed in gates, and there were Jewish people living there, and there were Irish people living there. The Irish could go in and out, the Jews not. Okay, that's why my grandfather could cross the guard, bring food, come back every single day. The food is... Because if there wouldn't be rebellion with people shooting the people that escaped, it means that there was no gate. But there was rebellion. So they did cross some gate that they couldn't cross if they were Jews in regular times. And even the people that could go in and out of the ghetto ran away from there when they could. But it also means that an Irish-looking person could walk in and out of the ghetto. What would an Irish-looking person... Okay, the teams of the guards weren't changing all the time. It means that it was kind of a 15-minute city, closed in a gate. The Irish could walk out, the Jews not. So, when we understand that, we understand what was the ghetto. And indeed, it was marketed like a city. When there would be visitors of the municipality of those ghettos, they would put an orchestra of people playing music, and it looked like, okay, they had to make it look appealing. Now, what is ghetto lodge? What is a lodge? All the people that were invested in profitable cities, which means trafficking their peers, torturing, sacrificing, enslaving, they have a ghetto too. It's called ghetto lodge. What they thought they're going to be competing with the extortion cults on the profit, cutting dividend. The extortion cults work with the monarchies. They work with the aristocracy. That's rebellion. That's something that could outthrow the government. So they became a part of their own investment. And this is ghetto lodge. Moon hour. In Israel, we also had people that wanted to make a city profitable. They want to make Tel Aviv profitable city. Basically, that means trafficking, that means making Tel Aviv Warsaw, concentration camp. Now, it already looks a little bit. Also, New York, you cannot live in the sea. What was the Robert Caro? There are jokes about what type of things people are living in New York and paying shit ton of rent. Why is that? Because when there were testimonies about ritual abuse, it was dismissed as satanic panic. So, because it would always be somebody's teacher, somebody's family member, somebody's commander. When there is war, they shoot their commanders. Why not when there is ritual abuse? Somebody's Grand Master Lodge. When there is ghetto lodge, it doesn't matter what the Grand Master he was. In fact, the more grand, the more competition it would be to the existing extortion cult. They kill the generation so that they will have time lapse before they are inherited. Because they know how they treat elderly people. But all these children that were raped by the Grand Master, so that was the ghetto. It was only allowed because there were child trafficking, human trafficking, and ritual abuse. People did nothing, called it satanic panic, said the Me Too went too far, and now they have ghetto lodge. Until they rebel, ghetto lodge. But will they at least be smart next time? This is why people like Master Ben Saduno said that this war will have way more death. He knew what this war was about. He couldn't say it, otherwise he would be killed. It's about sexual sovereignty.